Hi everybody, it's Oksana. Today I'm going to show you how to make this tiara here that you see on my little head, my little foam head that I have. And this will be, a fun thing to wear maybe on Halloween or, just anytime really. So if you want to see how this is made and how you can make one yourself, then just keep watching. So to start, you need 3 pieces of wire. These 2 shorter pieces are both 7.5 inches, and then this long piece is 17 inches. And this is dead soft copper wire, and it is 16 gauge. This is the brand. It's very readily accessible. You can get it at, I think, Michael's or AC Moore. So it's easy to find. I'm not using raw copper like I normally do because then it, has to be oxidized. I just don't necessarily like it as much for something like a tiara, especially with like the tarnish on there. It can start to rub off on like your hair or wig if this is like a costume. So I feel like enameled wire works well. You can get also maybe aluminum wire, stainless steel wire. I have made a tiara with stainless steel, and it is a little harder to bend. I believe this is also the 16 gauge. So it's pretty hard to manipulate because stainless steel is harder, but it can be done if you want more of like a silver look, but you're worried about it, rubbing off, because enameled wire, this enameling can be scratched off if you're not careful, especially when you're working with your tools. That's when the highest risk for scratching off, not so much when you're wearing it. But it can be done. I have this one that I wore last Halloween, and these are just enameled copper wires that have held up fine. Or maybe it was even the Halloween before that, so this is an old one. And it's been fine. As long as you don't scratch it with your tools when you're making it, it should be okay. So here's what we're going to do with the longer piece, starting with the longer piece. And by the way, you are going to have to weave with something to connect the wires. This is the only one I had in a matching color. It's 24, I believe. 26 should work well too. Again, dead soft round wire. So taking this longer piece, you are going to, I know it's hard to see because it's so long, but you're going to bend it in half and try to find that center of it. Alright, so once it's apparent, this is the middle of it. And you want to be precise here. You don't want to just like be like, oh, that's roughly the center. You want that to be the center. I'm going to go ahead and bend it as tight as you can get it. If you're using enameled wire, I probably wouldn't press super hard with like pliers or anything, just because you might scratch off the coating. Then you're going to start kind of opening it up, because right now, these are crisscrossing. You want to open it up like this, kind of make like a little V, try to get it to be not too lopsided here or anything. Alright, so then what you're going to do is you're going to make kind of a bump here, and then you probably want to do both sides simultaneously, so this way you can kind of see if they're starting to look different from each other. This part is a little finicky. You just have to play around with it until you get it all to be matching. If you want, you can do one side and you can trace it on paper, and then you can just put the other side on that paper. You're going to have to like flip it over because, this side's going to mirror, and then just kind of bend it following that shape that you drew on the paper. That might be one way you could make it a little bit easier for yourself. So you want it to go down, like a bump going down, and then you want that bump to go up like this. So first down, and then it comes back up. And then with this end here, just going to take your pliers You want to be careful with it. If you're using enameled copper, because you don't want to scratch that coating off. You're just going to make a loop with your pliers, and here's the direction I'm going. So here's the end of my wire, and here's my little curl. And then after you make the loop, you want to continue to curl it until it's kind of like this. So kind of like an open loop that goes like this. All right. So this side is pretty much done. Try to have this curl not be super up high. So when you have this little wave here, kind of, if it got too high for you when you were bending it, kind of lower it down so it's just all kind of on the same line. So now you can bend this side. So here's how you do the tracing method. So I trace this side. Now I can hold, this is going to be hard to do in the air, but I can hold this side next to it, and I can just bend my wire to match this tracing to make sure that my sides are equal. So then I'm just going to curl this loop exactly the way I curled this side. Alright, so here it is. And I mean, it doesn't have to be super perfectly exact. If something is just slightly, like if this one is just slightly, you know, wider or taller or something than this little curl, it's not really going to be noticeable, but you do want it to be symmetrical and kind of even, is what I was getting at with that tracing. All right, so now we're moving on to these two pieces of 7.5 inches. And what we want to do with these is we want to bend them into a letter S, but we want them to be the same, very similar. So again, you can bend one, trace it, and bend the other one, or because you do have two separate pieces in this case, here's what might be easier, is to bend them literally together. And I'm using this little, it's called Bead Buddy. I think they're called bail making pliers. They have these little circles, but unlike the round nose pliers, these change. So if I grab my wires like this and I turn them, this wire, because they are thick wires, is going to be making a smaller loop around a smaller part of these pliers, and the wire next to it is going to be a little bit over, and it's going to make a slightly larger loop, which is not a big deal if you just have round nose pliers. It's really not a big deal. They're going to be very similar, but if you're a perfectionist and it's going to bother you that it's not exactly the same, then using something like this will ensure that the loop that you make is going to be the same size. Oops. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a little loop with the smallest part. You want this to be a small loop. And then you just want to make sure that that the loop is closed on both of the wires. So this one just needs to be closed a little tighter. All right. So now it works better if you have something going through these two little loops just to like hold them. You want to start gently bending, and this will slide, and you don't want to press super hard. See, I already started to like scratch off the coating a tiny bit, but it's not really going to be noticeable on this portion here, but still you do want to be pretty careful here. So what you can do is, if you have like a little cloth or like a little piece of tape, you can put in there to prevent it from scratching, or even like a piece of paper, or you can just, you know, try your best and just hold it with your finger, and it is going to kind of slip around here, but We're going to do our best to curl it. Oops. So you just want this curl to be, oops, you can take this out now. Kind of going like this. And now, so it's going down like this. We're making the letter S, remember? So keep going down. And now we're going to start to go up. And it's okay if one side of the S is a little smaller than the other side. You know, like this is obviously smaller and this is a bigger loop. That's okay. So this side I'm going to do with my round nose pliers just to show you guys. If you don't have to have those other pliers. So if you do the round nose, I like to do it one at a time. And I just take one and I curl it. And then I take my other one. You can actually even mark, like a little marker on your round nose pliers, like where you're touching the curl, so that when you're making it, it's the same size. But you don't have to, as long as they're relatively similar, it'll be fine. So then you can hold it next to each other, and obviously this one is a little higher right now. I'm kind of try and get them on the same page here. So in the end, you should have two of these S-looking things that are relatively similar. They don't have to be perfectly identical, but relatively similar to each other. And the way we're going to use them is we're going to flip one of them over so it mirrors the other one. And this is how we're going to use them. Actually, I just had an idea, and sorry to switch things up on you, but I'm going to be using this black wire instead to do the attaching. And this one is 26 gauge. So the other was 24, this one's 26. I do like using 26 better. I think it's a little easier to work with. So this is, again, round, dead soft. It's just a different color now. And here's why I'm switching. I'm going to show you guys in a minute. Because this is brown and this wire is black. But for my decoration, and here is an easy way you can make a decoration for the central part right here. It does have some black, and to tie that in better with the brown, I thought that if my weaving wire was black, it would just work better. So all this is an earring. It's just a really cheap here's the little earring portion, dangly earring. So if you just go to like a Claire's or Icing or whatever those stores are now, I haven't been in like a million years, but the cheap jewelry stores that sell, you know, like fake little earring. A Walmart probably has them, right? And you just find some kind of earring that you think would be pretty as a central piece for your tiara, then that's really all you need. And you can just take, if this has like one of those hook earrings, you can just remove that. Or if it has a post, you can just take some wire cutters and just remove that. And if it ends up so that it's a little sharp, you can use a file. You know, honestly, even like a nail file would work in a pinch, just to make that nice and smooth so you don't have to worry about anything scratching your forehead. And then upside down, it makes a gorgeous little centerpiece for your tiara with a little dangly element. And your earring doesn't have to have this little dangly element. Like, this could have been just a single earring, and this little loop could have been the little hook to hook it into your ear, and then you remove the hook and you use this little circle and you attach a little dangle of some sort, like a little dangle bead or something. You could do that as well. So I'm going to cut myself off a longish piece here of my black 26 gauge wire because I just want to make sure I have enough length. If it's too long, then, you know, it's not a big deal. I can just cut it off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this portion here. I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to attach it by just wrapping it around. Be like 5 or so times. Just whenever you feel like it's comfortably attached. Probably depends on the thickness of the wire that you're using as well. Thicker wires will feel more sturdy quicker. I'm going to take my pliers, and sorry, I flipped this to the back just so I can grab that little tail end there. And just kind of pinch that down so it's not going to poke you in the forehead. So now you want to go ahead and place this so that it's nice and centered, and then you're satisfied with the placement of it. Now flip it back over here. You can move this wire a little bit so it should slide up. Now if you do slide it up like this, it's going to be visible. If that's not okay with you, don't slide it up this high. It's okay with me that it's visible. What I'm going to do is, a lot of these earrings have like little holes and things, so you just have to find a hole, or if it doesn't, I mean, there should be some edge that you should be able to grab onto. This is something that kind of, you just have to figure out what works with your particular piece that you're attaching. So I'm just going to use the little holes that my earring naturally has to attach it with my wire to my tiara. Sorry to keep flipping it on you, but this really is one of those things that it's easier to just kind of go with it. So now I'm wrapping a few single times around just my wire after I, you know, put it in and through that hole and made that little first attachment. So I'm putting it around and around until I get to another location where it may work well to attach it. And as you can see from the front, it's really not even that visible where you attached it, so it doesn't like make it look bad or anything. Let me think here. Okay, so I have another hole coming up. I'm just going to put it through. And you really just need to do this in just a few places to attach it. It's okay if your earring doesn't have like a ton of holes. It should still be fine. You do definitely want to attach it at the tip here. So like at least on the edges and on the tip. So at least like 3 spots should get you the security that you need, because this is wire that you're attaching it with, and so it is strong. Alright, so now that I'm almost at the tip here, and as you can see, I'm making really loose loops here. It doesn't have, nobody's going to see this part in the back, so if you don't have to make these tight, nice little loops. It's just to move the wire along, you know. So now that I'm here, there isn't really anything good for me to put my wire through because there's no holes. Actually, there might be a tiny hole right there, but we'll ignore it in case you guys don't have holes in the top of your earring. I'm gonna wrap it around this little tip. So see, it's not super noticeable, but here's my little wires being wrapped around. Now I'm going back to this wire and wrapping around that until I get to some sort of little area where I can attach it. And if you don't have an earring and you can't get one, you could always just get some kind of bead and even just like attach a little bead to this V portion, or a little dangle or something. It'll be, you know, a little plainer, but it'll still work. All right, I'm almost done. So now you just want to finish it off with the single loops, and then see how this is sticking out here. You just want that to be even. You can see the black color has scratched off my wire a little bit. That's okay because it's just in the back. It's just from pulling it through that earring kind of scratched it. So trim it, pinch down your little end. There we go. The central part is done. Now we're going to attach those little letter S thingies that we made. So you can even use your little end here. Mine is pretty long. Like, this is the wire that I was weaving with, and I cut it, and I still have a lot left. So I'm going to take my letter S, and they're stuck together. Okay. Alright, so I think that if I put it like this, I like the way it looks. You can kind of open it up a tiny bit if you want to as well. Just play around with whatever works. And then one thing that you might notice is that this is kind of has a slight bend to it, whereas this is bending in the other direction. So you want to just bend it, because eventually you are going to bend this around so that it fits your head. So if it seems like it's a little awkward, just kind of bend it a little bit so it's rounded this way, like this kind of curve to the curve of your head. So if you're satisfied with how that looks, what we're going to do is, and I guess I didn't even have to cut this wire theoretically, could have just kept going with it. But we're going to attach our wire again. And then I'll cut that little end off later. And then we're going to take our wire and wrap around both of these to attach this little S curly, just like this. So just wrap it a few times so it's nice and secure. I'm just trying to push my wraps together here. And then go back up to just this top one and wrap. You want a few single wraps around just one wire before you trim off this weaving wire. That'll just help secure it better. So we've attached right here. We just have to now do the same thing and attach right here. And my wire just, for some reason, a tiny bit of that black flaked off there. Maybe you can't even see it, but it's like a little silver speck. So I'm using a Sharpie to color that in. Kind of a quick trick to do with that. So now I cut myself another little piece here to attach this portion. And I'm going to start by wrapping a few single times just around this main big wire here. I'm going to move that so that it lines up with where I want to attach my curl. Then I'm just going to use my wire to wrap around the both several times. And then I'm going to go ahead and wrap just around this wire here a few times again. And then that's it. This is attached. So obviously trim off these little ends. But go ahead and attach this side exactly in the same way. Alright, so now both sides are attached. And what you want to do, and this kind of naturally happened for me as I attached, is this started to form a curve. You want this to curve around your head, so just kind of gently start bending it, including these little curls as well. If they are getting too high, make sure you kind of push them down. And you want to actually put it on your head to fit it to the shape of your head, because we can bend it like this, but then the important part is that it sits nicely. It's going to kind of go on your forehead and a little bit behind the ears there. There's a little little head that I happen to have, little foam head. So it's going to sit like this. And what you want to do is you want to take a chain and measure the space between this little curl and this little curl to right here. Just measure that on your own head, since you're going to be the one wearing it. And grab yourself that piece of chain. You want it to be just slightly longer than you measured, because you might need a little bit of adjustability there. Maybe you're planning to wear a wig or something, and then this, doesn't fit quite as well. So I like to always make the chain just a little longer. So I just opened up the little link of my chain, and now I'm closing it back up because I'm attaching it to the tiara, just right here. I mean, it can theoretically slide, but it'll be fine like once you put it on. So that's one end. Here's the other end. And I like having a nice big chain like this, or at least a somewhat large one, because then it's like the whole thing is adjustable. Ooh, this came right off, huh? Oh, because this loop is so big, look at that. It slides right off. So you have two choices here. You can either just slide it on, or you can put it through the little loop right here. So I'm actually just going to open up this loop, slide the chain inside, and then close up the loop. There, now my chain is stuck. And then same here. I guess that's the downfall of having a thicker chain. But in terms of adjustability, what I mean is after we attach our clasp, so here in the middle, I'm going to open up one of these links, and I'm going to attach my clasp on here. So now I'm going to be able to use this clasp to close up this chain really anywhere, because these links are so big, and they don't literally have to be this big. Even slightly smaller, depending on how big your clasp is, might work. So I can kind of close it up right here if I need to, you know what I mean, and have that adjustability. That's why I wanted to make this chain a little longer, so that if anything, it's too long and I just can close it like this to get a better fit. So here it is on my little mannequin there. And that's it. That's how you make a tiara.